All right, what the fuck is up, YouTube? So, getting shredded 101. We have calorie deficit, cardio, accurate tracking of food intake, macros, micros. We're going to dive into all of this. Okay. Peep the 3 week transformation. Now, you're going to be like, gear, right? No, I did that with test, 250 test, and a little bit of Retta. So, I didn't even use that many fat loss compounds. And for the stack that I'm going to give you guys to use, it's going to be, you could do this 3 week difference and then do a crazier like 12-week difference if you ran this stack. But let's get into it. So common mistakes that I see with a deficit anyways is too aggressive of an approach, right? We start out at 1,000 calorie deficit, a ton of cardio, and you get burnout literally within a week. So that's a big mistake I see. I also see people not tracking calories thoroughly. They're just guesstimating things, which you cannot do. Every calorie matters. You have to be anal about this shit. Trust me. Otherwise, why are you even dieting? You might as well give it 100%. In terms of fat loss compounds, a lot of people like to add in all the compounds right away. You don't want to do that. You know, you can lose a lot of fat just off of a deficit alone, and then a lot more fat adding in cardio, and then a lot more fat adding in compounds. If you add in all three at the same time, and you do a ton of it, you're going to either get burnt out or it's just not going to be as effective. You're not going to be able to sustain that deficit for a long enough period of time. So, calories, we're going to start with a 500 to 700 calorie deficit below your maintenance. To find your maintenance, you go to caloriecalculator.net. And this will be about 1 to 1.5 pounds of fat loss per week. If you add in cardio, it's going to be a little bit more, right? In terms of macros, 25% fats, gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then the rest are carbs, fast digesting, and slow. So, the difference between fast digesting and slow, fast digesting carbs are going to be like rice cakes, raw honey, things that convert to glucose very quickly, versus like slow digesting carbs such as potatoes. You want to utilize the slow digesting carbs when you're trying to place a lot of space between your next meal, so you're more full for a longer period of time, and you want to put fast digesting carbs closer to your workout. In terms of carb sources, I have all of those listed, and protein sources as well. Those are all good and approved. Important micronutrients to keep in mind that you're hitting is going to be magnesium, all your vitamins and minerals, zinc, especially for testosterone, and potassium as well, because you do not want to be bloated. Now, in terms of cycle design, there are 5 compounds that you could use that I think are very effective. The first one is going to be Retta. Obviously, Retta is going to be a necessity when you're cutting. Like, if you're not using Retta to cut, you are just putting yourself at a disadvantage. You're making the hunger excruciating, and you're having to limit the amount of fat loss per week because you have to do a higher deficit closer to your maintenance. Otherwise, you are going to feel the diet fatigue way quicker. So, I recommend Retta 100%. I love it. It also gives you this sick cunt mindset the second you pin it. Like, you pin Retta and you need to get shredded. Like, your only goal is to get shredded on Retta, which I don't know why exactly it does that. It does alter your dopamine receptors, so you crave more hard working things versus like cheap dopamine, I guess. The next one is going to be SLU PP332. It is a exercise mimetic, activates the ERR receptors, so it basically convinces your body you're working out even if you're not. So you're going to burn more calories in the day and increase your energy expenditure. Same thing with Retta. Both help with insulin sensitivity, which is very important. That makes you more efficient at using carbs for fuel instead of your body storing them for fat. Next one is going to be injectable L-carnitine, which shuttles fatty acids into mitochondria for beta oxidation. Basically, it allows your body to use fat for fuel, and makes the fat loss process a little bit more efficient. The next is going to be cardarine. Cardarine increases fat oxidation and endurance. It also is good if you are on cycle, if you're taking harsh orals and your cholesterol is fucked. It'll help with your cholesterol. The final one is going to be MOTS-C. MOTS-C is good for insulin sensitivity, metabolism, exercise capacity, all of that stuff. Also helps with energy expenditure. Now, when you stack all five of these, your energy expenditure is going to skyrocket a lot, which is why it doesn't make sense to add in all five off the bat, right? When you can just start with a little bit of Retta and then a little bit of Retta and L-carnitine, and then a little bit of Retta, L-carnitine, cardarine, and then all five. But an example cycle outline that you could do would be the first 2 weeks. Start with half a milligram of Retta to 1 milligram of Retta every 3 days. It really depends on your tolerance to Retta, right? If you've taken Retta before, you could start with 1 milligram. If you know your tolerance, great. But for beginners, I always say start with half a milligram. Okay, that shit hits you hard. And it's very effective at half a milligram. You can get away with half a milligram for honestly the first like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe, if you're new to it. But if you are really trying to, speed run this cut while maintaining muscle, you could do all three of these: cardarine, injectable L-carnitine, and Retta. I would do injectable L-carnitine before your fasted cardio, 300 to 500 milligrams. And I would do cardarine for energy endurance, so you can do more cardio in your day and do it at a faster rate, burning more calories. Weeks 2 to 4, you're going to up the Retta a little bit. I like to pin Retta every 3 days because it has a half-life of 6 days, but I notice after the first 3 days, the dose kind of starts to fade off. So if you are consistently pinning it, you're consistently getting that appetite suppression, and it just keeps, the effect of it more stable week to week. This is a very basic outline though, and it's very dose dependent. This is just what I've been doing personally, but I would keep the foundations in mind. Start with a low dose, start with few compounds, and only add in compounds or increase your dose when the dosing no longer becomes effective or you are no longer losing fat. And I mean, you're going to be losing fat anyways as long as you're in a deficit, regardless if you take things or not. This only will speed up the process that you already have in place. So I think that covers everything in terms of cycle design and fat loss compounds that I would recommend. Now for cardio, you want to be starting the first 2 weeks with 10 to 15K steps daily movement, no matter what. Minimum 10K steps. That's so easy, dude. And daily fasted cardio, 30 minutes. You want your heart rate between 140 to 150 beats per minute. To achieve that, I need a Stairmaster at level 7 or an incline treadmill at 12 incline, 3.2 speed. After the first 20 minutes, I will usually increase the intensity by a little bit just to burn a little bit more calories. And why do I do fasted cardio? Well, fasted cardio, it sets your day focusing on fat loss, right? You wake up, you don't have a meal, you do your cardio, you're already burning calories, and it makes the first meal of your day more rewarding. It kind of keeps your mindset focused on losing fat more. It just keeps you consistent. So I 100% recommend fasted cardio. It's not going to be fatiguing. If it is fatiguing, it's because you're doing too much too quickly, right? But I think 30 minutes daily, the first week it might be a little fatiguing, but your body will adapt to it. Trust me. I used to literally like 4 weeks ago, I was complaining about doing that every day. And now I do an hour and 15 of high intensity cardio every single day. No problem, not fatiguing. So, but yeah, gradually increase the cardio duration. So weeks 1 to 2, we have 10 to 15K steps, 30 minutes fasted cardio daily. Weeks 2 to 4, we're gonna up it to 30 to 45 minutes in the morning, and then 15 to 30 minutes post workout. And then weeks 4 to 6, we're gonna do 45 minutes, no matter what, fasted cardio daily, to 30 to 45 minutes cardio post workout. Now, this really just depends. This is kind of a basic outline in terms of when to increase the duration, but if you notice within the first week, you're doing 30 no problem, and you just want to speed up the fat loss process and you think you can sustain it, then add in more cardio, of course, but only do what is sustainable and is working for you. Now, digestion, meal timing, and an example day of eating for you guys. So, common mistakes I see with food in a deficit is that people will do 2 3 big meals, and that leads to poor digestion, higher levels of hunger. You're going to be, if you have only 2 to 3 big meals, so you do a meal before your workout, meal post workout, and you have one meal left in the day. And if you put it too early, then you're going to be hungry going to bed, which sucks. I always like, especially too, when you get far into a deficit, if you're going to bed hungry, your blood sugar is going to be very low. And what happens is during the night when you're sleeping, your cortisol will spike and it will wake you up, which you don't want to happen because sleep is very important in a deficit. You want to be asleep the entire night. You do not want to wake up. So, what I do is I do 4 meals. It's not much more, but this is what works for me. You know, if you need 5 or 6 meals, if you can, space out with foods you like that fit the calories and do 5 to 6 meals, but 4 meals works for me. It's a little bit different than 2 to 3 meals. I get a little bit more protein synthesis spikes as well. I also see people doing extreme fasting. Now I fast, right? So, but relatively. So I do 45 minutes of my fasted cardio, and then I have meal one, which is a cup of fat-free Greek yogurt with a scoop of protein powder and 2 rice cakes. It is 40 grams of carbs, so it replenishes it. Oh, fuck! It replenishes the glycogen from my cardio that I did that morning, and it keeps me from feeling hungry for a little bit. So I have that meal at about 11:30 usually, and I do my cardio between 9 to 10:30 in the morning. Shower, then I have that meal, and then I wait an hour to 2 hours after, or as long as I can, to give myself the most calories at the end of my day or post workout, right? Meal two is going to be a cup of egg whites, 4 whole eggs, and 365 grams of potatoes. I will dice the potatoes up and put them in the stovetop and make them nice and crispy. This is a good meal. Now people are gonna say that's a ton of fats before your workout, but to be honest, I don't notice any problems with bloating or digestion doing this meal. So it's what works for me. I just, you know, space it out between an hour to an hour and a half pre-workout and go when I'm feeling good, when I feel that it's digested fully, and then pre-lift about 30 minutes before I'll have another 2 rice cakes just to get a little bit more carbs. I always like to go into my workouts with 125 grams of carbs pre-workout. That is the staple number for me to ensure my lifts are still progressing. I don't feel like shit during my lifts. I have full energy. If I do anything less than 100 grams of carbs, I just don't feel good. I feel burnt out after the first 3 movements. So meal three is a pound of ground beef, 96.4. If you are doing ground beef, 96.4, or you're not doing ground beef, like if you can't buy 96.4 ground beef, I would do chicken. I would do ground turkey. I would do, the other protein sources I listed. But the way I see it, 96.4 has very good calories. But if you dip to 90/10 or 85/15, you're just having unnecessary calories and you're limiting the amount of meals you can have. Meal four is going to be that Greek yogurt bowl one last time. I like to have that a little bit before bed, so I'm not going to bed with my blood sugar low. And this is the total calories for the day: 2,200, 290 grams of carbs, 235 grams of protein. Currently, I'm on testosterone, so I have a lot of protein compared to, 1 gram per pound of body weight. I weigh about 200 pounds right now, so it's a little bit over. But since I have, you know, increased protein synthesis, the more protein, the better for me. This is a low carb day example though. So normally I have about 24 to 2,500 calories and about 250 grams of carbs with close to the same amount of protein. And as you can see, I have 105 grams carbs post workout. Carbs are just as important post workout to replenish the glycogen as they are pre workout to fuel that lift. So when to apply your carb days, right? High, moderate, low. carb cycling. So on the majority of your days, you're going to be at a moderate carb intake, right? Which is going to be the most sustainable and the ideal target deficit you want to be hitting. On your high days, it's going to be, a little bit more. This is when you are feeling a little bit more fatigued. You have a demanding session or that day, or you have a ton of cardio that you have to do, or you're just feeling depleted. That's when you would use a high carb day. Low carb days are going to be on your rest days or a day where you're really not doing much activity or traveling. Something like that is when I do low carb days. But generally, I don't really do low carb days because if you're already in a 700 calorie deficit, the low carb days are going to be very minimal with increasing fat loss. So, but you can implement as needed. It is an effective tool if you want to put yourself in a bigger deficit week to week. For hydration, a gallon to a gallon and a half of water daily. Also focus on your potassium to sodium ratio, 4-1. In terms of sleep and recovery, 8 to 10 hours of sleep, non-negotiable. Okay, you need a lot of sleep. You need to be recovering from your workouts and your cardio, especially in a deficit. You have less food and nutrients to work with. I'd also avoid water 1 to 2 hours before bed. It disrupts your sleep. You're going to be waking up and taking pisses. So I would avoid water as much as you can 1 to 2 hours before. And then also 1 to 2 rest days per week. Only take when you actually need the rest day. I always take about one rest day per week, but if you need a second rest day, put it in. But if you don't need it, don't take it. There's no point. If you can still train that day, you're still feeling great, and you can still progress, then train. Supplementation for sleep, it's going to be melatonin, 2.5 to 10 milligrams, magnesium glycinate, GABA. All right, finally, refeeds and cheat days. So when it comes to refeeds, what is a refeed? A refeed is going to be maintenance calories for the day with the extra calories primarily being carbs. So if you're at 2,500 calories and your maintenance is 3,200, you're going to be allocating those extra 700 calories to primarily carbs around your workouts, or if you decide to do a refeed on your rest day, that works, just as well. It's going to bring back your training performance a little bit, restart your metabolism, and get things rolling again. Now, when do I need a refeed? When feeling of hunger is there even after your meals, or your training or strength drops off. If your weight loss is stalled over a 2-week period of weigh-ins as well, that's when you likely need a refeed. That means your metabolism isn't working as properly. So if you weigh in at 155 pounds and then 2 weeks later you're 155 pounds still and you're in a pretty big deficit, that's a good sign that you need a refeed. Now, what's a cheat day? A cheat day is a mix of carbs, fats, protein, and eating well above your maintenance calories. Now, I don't recommend a cheat day at all. If your goal is fat loss, it's going to make it harder to get back on plan. And when you have a cheat day, right, you have a lot of dopamine from food and you're going to increase your cravings, even being on something like an appetite suppressant. So I just don't recommend it. Refeeds are valuable. I recommend doing a refeed about once a month. You could do it a little bit more, but keep in mind that the more refeeds that you put in place, the less fat you're going to lose. And the same thing applies for a cheat day. A cheat day is a lot more impactful on your overall weekly deficit compared to your refeeds. So if you had to choose between one, always go for the refeed. And I guarantee you, after you have that refeed, you're going to be glad that you didn't have a cheat day. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I tried to be pretty thorough and in-depth about everything. I may have missed a few things, but this is everything you should need to know for cutting and in terms of compounds that you could run. Peace, boys.